the Finance Minister, Seth Terkper, would be in Parliament. A parliamentary session has actually begun.
Right.
So he is expected in the next few minutes to tell the country and our representatives in Parliament how they intend to expend resources for the first 3 months of any administration, be it the NPP or the NDC, the two likely.
CPP,
it's not likely to be any other party. But I mean, it's a keen race between NDC and NPP, so it's going to be either of them. But it is to get enough resources for any of these two parties who would come or take over the affairs of the country
to be able to take off smoothly.
Absolutely.
So from now till about 1 o'clock thereabout, when Mr. Terkper will have finished his presentation, we'll be linking you with our guys in there in Parliament House. Our team of business reporters are there. Rabiu Al-Hassan and Pakus Yasari are all there. From now till the presentation is over, we'll be getting to them. They will tell you exactly what is happening there, whilst we also try and take a look at what perhaps the expectations are. There's so much focus on elections, but again, who gets to do what starting from 1st of January. Already, Rabiu Al-Hassan is ready in Parliament, and quickly he's joining us. Rabiu, good morning, and grateful you stay there. Well, we're told that the session has already started. What is currently happening now is some tribute being paid to a former member of the Council of State, Dr. Mary Grant, who passed on some time ago. But apart from that, any information as to when Mr. Terkper is expected to be welcomed by the House to begin his presentation?
Okay, as you said, the proceedings have already started, and the Speaker of the House, Edward Duajao, has taken over, and we are expecting very soon. We exactly don't know when the Minister of Finance would be delivering to Ghanaians and also to Parliament the exact details of the first quarter budget for 2017. But according to the order paper that I've seen and I have with me now, it states that the Minister of Finance, Honorable Seth Terkper, is expected to provide the estimates of the revenues and expenditure of the government of Ghana for the 2017 financial year. And he's also expected to present the expenditure in advance of appropriation from January to March 2017. So those are the details we'll be expecting from the Minister of Finance. But so far, it looks like there are other things that the House would want to deal with before they move on to this issue of the Minister presenting the first quarter budget for 2017. But there is one particular issue of interest, which is the attendance of the members of Parliament currently. It looks like the numbers are not that impressive on both the majority and the minority side. The number of members of Parliament currently in the House, it's I don't know, it's quite difficult, but the numbers are not that impressive. As to whether they will form a quorum when it gets to the crux of the issues, when it gets to the deal, that when it gets to the main issue of the day, where the Minister of Finance will be presenting the first quarter budget, whether anybody at the minority side will be raising the issues or not, that's what we would wait to see. But I can give you and confirm the details that it looks like the number of members of Parliament currently in the House is not that impressive. It's looking at the 275 members of Parliament to be expecting to occupy their seats when this big issue of the Minister of Finance presenting the first quarter budget is supposed to be read. The number is not that impressive. So we would wait to see whether it will become a theme issue or a main issue when the Minister starts talking and the minority wants to butt in.
Rabiu, you raised the issue of quota. Does it suggest that before the statement is read, the House would have to form a quota, and if it is unable to, then what happens?
Okay, the House they are supposed to start proceedings by forming a quorum, and the minority leader in Parliament, Osei Mensah Bonsu, recently raised issues with the numbers they've been having in Parliament when it comes to the business of the House. Now, we know of the pending elections, the December 7 elections. It looks like most of the members of Parliament are on the ground canvassing for votes. That is what is preoccupying the members of Parliament for now, because they would want to retain their seats. Opposition is key. Looks like those in Parliament feel some of their seats are being threatened apart from the safe seats you can see in the Volta region and those in the Ashanti region, and maybe those scattered across some of the regions across the country. So members of parliament, a majority of them are on the ground canvassing for votes and are not exactly in parliament doing the business expected of them from the house.
Right. What I wanted to know is if before the presentation there is a need for a quorum, if according to the rules of the House, a budget presentation would need a quorum of the House, or if that isn't necessary and the House can go on even with the little number they have.
Okay, I'm sure the standing orders would be triggered if they don't constitute a quorum by the minority side in Parliament, and it would depend on the ruling that will be given there by the presiding speaker, that is the Speaker of Parliament in the person of Edward Doe Adjahor. So if truly the members of Parliament currently seated don't constitute a quorum, the standing orders of the House as to what relates to this specific issue of quorum, forming a quorum, will be triggered by the minority by any of the members of Parliament, and we suspect it would be those from the minority side, and the Speaker of the House would have to rule on whether to go ahead with this or not.
Okay, right, but exactly, you said elections seem to have overshadowed this presentation of the budget statement and fiscal policy. No, but are members who are present talking about it?
Okay, currently they are executing the business of the day, the order paper, which has a long list of things they are supposed to do. It was earlier when we had the opportunity to speak to the minority side, that's the leader of the minority in Parliament. He specifically raised issues with the attendance levels we've witnessed with regards to the members of Parliament coming into the House to execute the business of the day. So it looks like the minority leader specifically mentioned it, as to whether the other members of Parliament who in themselves are not doing what is expected of them by being in the House also feel it's something worth mentioning. We don't know for now, but the minority leader in Parliament, Osei Mensah Bonsu, has raised issues with the attendance levels, and he is worried and expecting the Speaker of the House to institute some form of measures by maybe allowing members of Parliament to rotate attendance. So if maybe this number of members of Parliament can come on this specific day, whilst on another day they will be allowed to go to their constituencies to canvass for votes and to campaign to be able to retain their seats, whilst when they are away, another set would come into Parliament to execute the order of the day, that's the business of the day, whilst others go back to their constituencies to campaign. As to whether the Speaker would heed to this, or as to whether he would institute some measures to deal with this, only time will tell. But for viewers and for listeners, they can be rest assured their Election Command Center TV3 would be here to report to them or to give them the details of what happened here.
All right. Now, Rabiu, you're there with Pakwesi Asare. Now, discussions on the budget, we were told the last revised budget that the finance minister presented to the House, he talked about an economy that is on the path of transformation, even though the opposition thinks that really that isn't the case. The first quarter budget expected very soon to be read. Perhaps from what you're picking, the signals you're picking, what is it likely to take a look at? What will be the focus of the finance minister in driving the country's development agenda starting 2017?
Okay, so for the side of the government, we are sure to know that it is only going to be optimism, it is only going to be positioning what they've done so far and maybe making Ghanaians see it in a good light. When you look at the time we are in now, it looks like the Minister of Finance and also government would be trumpeting specifically issues with regards to the 3-year extended credit facility program with the IMF, International Monetary Fund. We know it was supposed to be between 2015 and 2018. So far, in 2016, we've received in excess of $400 million from the IMF. With the last tranche we received, that's the third tranche we received just in this October. even though it delayed, the release of the tranche delayed, it did come. So it looks like government would say they are in a good place. The IMF think they are heeding to the details of the program that has been entered into, and it's only good for Ghana, looking at also the commentary that came in from the IMF. Now, they would also be mentioning issues with regards to Moody's, a credit rating agency that recently affirmed Ghana's B ratings and said we had a stable outlook from the negative outlook. So government would only be trumpeting the good work that they've done, but for the minority side, whilst we've already heard from the running mate to the MPP flag bearer in the person of Dr. Bahamadu Bawumia, and he has specifically mentioned that this government is running the country to ground. It doesn't look like they have grasp of the economic issues. It doesn't look like they understand the challenges facing Ghana, and they are actually exposing the country to lots of risk. The first issue he would always raise, or he has always raised, is the issue of debt. Now, from the figures we've seen so far, it looks like our debt to GDP currently in excess of 60% to GDP. He has said that it is still not good for Ghana to be having our debt to GDP in excess of 60% to GDP. So it looks like for the government side, they would always trumpet the good work they've done, and for the release of the tranche that we've witnessed from the IMF and the Moody's affirming us at B3 with a stable outlook. But from the opposition side, they would always say government is not working right, and it looks like they cannot manage the economy. The economy is being run to the ground. Now, the shocks that we've witnessed from the power sector, where I think in the last 3 years, it's only this year that we've witnessed some stability with regards to power supply. The shocks that the business community has witnessed, we were expecting the businesses to bounce back in terms of profitability and the ripple effect we would see in the economy. But it doesn't look like we've seen the target we were expecting. We've reached there yet. So I'm sure the impact is there for all to see, for businesses, for individuals. So it looks like while the opposition sees the way government is managing the economy in one light or in one breath, the government and the way they see the way they are running the economy is also in another light or in another breath. So it's the two truths. We from TV3 would try as much as possible to look at the issues and discuss the issues with independent policy think tanks, and also talk to economists and financial analysts to put things into perspective right after the reading of the budget, so people can actually understand and discern the presentation that would be done by the Minister of Finance.
Rabiu, I'm grateful for your time this morning. Rabiu Alhassan is in Parliament House. The Minister of Finance said TECPA is expected very soon to get to the floor and present the budget and fiscal policy of a government for the first 3 months, the first quarter of 2017, and help this country know how to rake in money and spend money. Right, Martin is here. We'll be getting back to Parliament a little later on, but this, for me, it's an innovation, because in the past we have not seen this. It's an election year. We were expecting it in November, but now it's in October. How do you think that perhaps this can help government, whichever government comes to power, plan properly in the first quarter and then into the second quarter?
Clearly, we have, like you mentioned, it's always been something we do in November.
Right.
But because of the activities around this time, a lot of attention is probably going to be shifted away from it. Now, when the election dust is settling, that is when issues of transition may come in, depending on how the election outcome would be. So if we have a government like the current administration, if the NDC does win, they would have, you know, that seamless transition, because they are the...
They've already planned for the first 3 months.
But if there is a change of government and MPP comes in, they already, yesterday in our bulletin, we mentioned that an administrative general has been appointed, and he is going to ensure that there is a smooth transition from one government to the other. So he also plays a critical role in here. But what the finance minister and the government is seeking to do, which is actually a statute decision, is that they want to put in place enough funding, enough financial muscle for whichever government will take over, so that at least by the second month in their administration, they will find their footing and then take some key financial decisions. They can be able to take key financial decisions, so there wouldn't be, any financial hiccups or economic hiccups for the administration.
So, for instance, where a new government would need money to quickly deal with an issue, and they would have to then run to parliament. But if this is done, then they can quickly stretch their hands and use that money without flouting any rule. But of course, you have also been thinking about this, expecting what the finance minister will tell parliament to have some impact on your life, particularly when we know what budgets can do and cannot do. So we've been going around talking to you out there on the street. Let's listen to what some of you had to say.
The Minister of Finance and Economic Planning will be presenting to Parliament today the first quarter of 2017 budget statement. And so today, what do you think? We find out from you, which areas of the economy would you want the concentration to be?
We'll be seeing in the last 40 years how our budget statement have been read. It will, another year will come, and it will just be a repetition. So I'm expecting that there should be much concrete steps, one in the trade and industry and mineral resources, investment, then the education aspect, then the industry. We just need our own indigenous, we can make it.
They should put more money into our agricultural sector because it contributes a lot to the nation building as our GDP. Yes, so I think they should tackle that aspect and leave the infrastructure for now, for the first quarter. They can suspend the rest of the school building or whatever they call it.
The minister to talk more on the health side, what they are going to do, how to improve it. Sounds like the health insurance is working, the health insurance is not working.
Hospital is one conference kakra. Ensure man bia yakwa. Na ejura ne timi adwuma man. Seba ya yenzo ya ni bi no. Ye betimi akobi.
I want the minister to talk about the finances in the system now, because everything is being hard for us all. So as I want him to talk about how the economy will be better for us all.
All right, welcome back and thanks so much for staying there. This is our special coverage of the budget presentation. The first 3 quarters or the first 3 months of 2017, government trying to provide for whichever government will be in power then to be able to have a smooth transition into the year. And that's what exactly we're doing here. Our team of reporters already in Parliament were told the House has already started proceedings. And the worry, however, is the number of MPs who are present in the chamber as of now. We're hoping to see the finance minister get onto the floor, and that's when we'll link you up straight there for you to be part of the conversation. But we're here coming to you live from our studios here. Martin is still with me here. Martin, so
I was particularly interested in Rabiu's position. After that elaborate report, he mentioned an issue of attendance.
Right.
It was expected. Clearly, it was expected.
Of course, with 48 days
yes,
more to the elections.
Those who are seeking re-election are already on the field canvassing for votes, and it may be what the speaker could have done was to give an order that, based on the fact that this is also a very crucial exercise, all the members of parliament are expected to be in the House to help take this critical decision, because whichever party they belong to, when there is when we get into 2017 and a new government is sworn in, or the continuing government is sworn in, any decision they will take would affect them as parliamentarians. So they all needed to be in Parliament. Unfortunately, it seemed not to favor them. So, and based on what Rabiu said, maybe they already have a quorum.
Right.
So when the finance minister delivers, they could, accent to it for it to be.
So, but my worry is if the number in the House would mean that the budget statement can be read. Of course, if it's a a decision, a motion that needs voting, then we need to talk about forming a quorum before you can vote. Yeah. But I'm wondering if representation will be affected because of the number. Can the House, or one of the rules of the House says that, well, because we don't have the quorum, quorum, you can't present the statement. That's where we're unclear about. So we're hoping to see how that will pan out. But I was wondering, could Parliament have noticed ahead that, or government has noticed ahead that, from the way the members are in their constituencies campaigning, it could affect their presence, their
yes, I'm
attendance.
I'm sure that consideration may have been discussed, because a similar thing happened in 2012. In 2012, also in the lead up to the elections, when the budget was going to be read, the attendance was even worse than what we are hearing today.
Right.
I mean, it was way too low, so they had to hold on for some members to be called to come back into the House, or to come to the House. Interestingly, some of them knew, so they were already on their way to the House. And like Rabiu is saying, maybe because they know there's going to be preliminary discussions before the reading of the budget itself, they are also coming in late. And you would recall that somewhere last week, the Speaker of Parliament, Right Honorable Doe Ajaho, mentioned the issue of lateness and the lackadaisical attitude of some members of Parliament to the business of the House, because over the period, and I think it's clearly so, he realized that they either come in late or don't turn up at all, and it is affecting the smooth flow of parliamentary business. So today's own maybe is like the top of all the problems they've had in terms of attendance to the House. And let's see, probably in the next 30 minutes to 1 hour, when the minister turns up to deliver the budget statement, they may form a quorum, because out of the 275, a third of them should be like 91, 92, thereabouts. So if even they get 95 MPs seated, they could very likely pass or assent to the budget statement.
We're hoping so, but we'll get more information from Parliament later on, and we'll tell you what's happening there. But for now, we're told the House getting ready to listen to the Finance Minister, who is ready to present the budget statements and fiscal policy of government for the first quarter of 2017. Yeah. Now, Rabiu is suggesting that Mr. Tekpe is likely to paint a picture of hope, optimism. That's what he said. Now, how hopeful should Ghanaians be from what Mr. Tekpe will tell them?
Absolutely. The Finance Minister will certainly, I mean, he would certainly not paint a gloomy picture, but would just give, that confidence in the economy, because the main opposition has been very critical of the current administration in terms of how they've managed the economy.
Right.
Government, on the other hand, has been quite defensive on a number of issues. I mean, even to the extent of going to the IMF, they've given justifiable reasons why they did that. And on what he's likely to say, he would tell us about how positively the country's economy is rolling out, how
the transformation that he spoke about some time ago,
and what other policies they've put in place to ensure that we have sound footing as a country economy-wise, and then how they intend to, in the future, rope in more revenue, because the country has been, I mean, it's a global effect. It's been hard hit by the issues of crude oil prices fluctuating, and then also the fact that our current debt to GDP is not looking too good, and then some of the IMF decisions the IMF had to be quite harsh in giving us certain decisions to follow, and I think government has consistently been clear on that and have done very well in following it. So there are positives and negatives. Certainly they would want to place it out there, but then they would hammer on the positives more, so we can, as a country, see that, well, it's not all that gloomy. And investors are also going to be listening. I mean, not just the external investors, but domestic investors as well, are all going to be paying particular attention to a lot of the things to be said in Parliament today, where the discussion would go. And based on that, they can say, if it is an election year and you have given such a positive outlook, then it means that we can stay and do business with you.
Government seem to be trumpeting the fact that one of the key challenges of the slowdown in the economy was the commodity prices that tumbled on the world market. Cocoa, gold, and others were not doing so good. But should government use that and say that, well, because of that, we could not make a lot of money? For me, on the back of the fact that government has the right to diversify the economy and make more money, but you stay on cocoa, gold, bauxite, and the rest are our traditional export products. And then you turn around to complain. Should government complain about that?
No, they do not. And one other thing that the opposition mentioned some time back is the fact that there's been the over-concentration on export.
Right.
So we only focus on our raw materials that we export. And even then, there are those who have also said that we should be able to convert and process these raw materials into whether consumables or whether even if it's in services. We should be able to add more value to what the raw materials we generate, and then before we can export.
Our cocoa is still going like that
in raw form, and so it comes back and we are buying it, but we could add value before we, and that is, I think, one difficulty governments over time have had to grapple with. And that aside, we think that we can also consider a number of things. Let's cross over to Parliament. We hear that there's actually a discussion ongoing right now. The Speaker is addressing the House. We'll come back to the studio to discuss this.
Expecting the speaker, presiding speaker, to make some statement. The members are up on their feet, some of them up on their feet, and perhaps in wait for the Minister of Finance, Mr. Setekbe. He has the duty of presenting government's budget statement and fiscal policy for the first 3 months, the first quarter of 2017. The Speaker is on the floor now.
That we defer to next week, October 27. Direct the Business Committee to program a question standing in the name of the member for Kumewu to be taken on that day, 27th October. Commencement of public business. Item number 5 on the order paper. Honourable members, item 5A, Roman number 1, should be deferred. I would like to hold consultation with the leaders, and indeed the chairman and the ranking member on the finance committee on 5A, Roman number 1. So I now move on to 5A, Roman number 2 by the Minister for Finance. 5A, Roman number 2.
Expenditure in advance of appropriation, January to March 2017.
Honourable members, paper duly laid. It is referred to the Finance Committee for consideration and report. Yes. Is it possible to take this matter, this matter today? Is the Finance Committee. Chairman, is it possible?
Mr. Speaker, if you will permit the committee to withdraw from the chamber, we will go and look at it and come back with the report.
Honourable ranking member.
If the papers are ready.
Very well. Very well. Yes.
Mr. Speaker, Chairman for Youth and Sports in item 5B. 5B is ready to lay that paper.
Honourable members, item number 5B, presentation of papers by the chairman of the Committee on Youth, Sports and Culture.
Report of the Committee on Youth, Sports and Culture on the National Youth Scheme Bill 2016.
Honourable members, paper duly laid. It is for distribution. Yes, Deputy Majority Leader.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, we then go to item 31. Item 31, 3-1.
Order. Yes, what item?
Item 31, page.
Item
3-1.
Welcome back, and of course you might have heard the Speaker of Parliament. Let's quickly go back to the House. Rabiu Al-Hassan is there. Rabiu, good morning again. And so what we're expecting had been called off by the House. Well, we're trying to reach reporter Rabiu Al-Hassan, and in Parliament House we just heard the announcement of the House cancelling or rescheduling the presentation of government fiscal policy for the first quarter of 2017. Rabiu Al-Hassan is there on the floor. Rabiu, grateful for your time once again. Confirmed it's been rescheduled. All right, and we are able to reach Rabiu Al-Hassan. We'll get to him, but the announcement was made by the Speaker Martin that it's been rescheduled for some other time.
Yes, information we have gathered is likely to be read on the 27th, which is 7 days from today.
I think from now, yes.
Yes,
yeah.
and clearly the reason for which the decision was taken isn't immediately known, but I'm sure that when our parliamentary reporter joins us on the line, he can tell us what reasons were given. It could be the issue of the attendance, or the fact that the finance ministry,
the committee itself isn't ready.
Yes.
Okay.
Hasn't.
All right. Let's join Rabiu once again. Rabiu, good morning. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, Bright.
Grateful. So tell us what might have been the reasons why the House decided to reschedule this presentation.
Okay, I would first tell you exactly what the Speaker of Parliament raised before the presentation was suspended. The Speaker of Parliament called on the Chairman of the Finance Committee in Parliament, Honourable James Aveji, and asked whether he would want the Finance Minister to defer to him the presentation of the paper, which is the first quarter budget for 2017, before it is presented before the House. Then he conceded and said he would want the Honourable Minister to consult the Finance Committee before the presentation, and he said it could be in November. Then the Speaker of the House, in the person of Edward Duajahu, again went to the ranking member on the Finance Committee on the minority side, who is in the person of Honourable Osayakoto, and asked whether he had any opposition or he had any commentary on the question he did ask the chairman of the Finance Committee, and he said he had no objection and he had no comment. So the Honourable Presiding Speaker, Edward Duajahu, did state that then they would have to move on to other business for the day. So exactly what you've just announced, the Minister of Finance, who was expected to present before Parliament and also to Ghanaians the first quarter budget for 2017, has called it off, or the House has decided to suspend it till November, and we'll be expecting the Minister to come back next month to present to the House exactly the details we'll be expecting.
I see. Could it be the fact that the poor number might have been the reason?
Okay, it is possible that the numbers contributed, the number of members of Parliament contributed to what has happened, because as viewers did see for themselves on our screens, the number of members of Parliament, both on the majority and the minority side, was not encouraging. It has been like this for some time now, and as we mentioned earlier, in an interview with the minority leader in Parliament, in the person of Osei Mensah-Bonsu, so he mentioned that it is a problem because the business of the day before it's executed, the House would have to form a quorum, and if that does not happen, and any member of the House triggers the standing order with regards to its relation to the forming of quorum, possibly it wouldn't come on. So to avoid any embarrassment, we would speculate that the numbers contributed significantly to the decision of the Speaker to suspend the final move, where we would have the Minister of Finance presenting the first quarter budget.
So at the moment, the Finance Committee would have to go back and perhaps do some work, or all we need to do is to wait for that day in November that we're talking about.
Exactly as you've said it. We'll be waiting on the Finance Minister to engage further, the Ministry of Finance, look at the numbers, look at the presentation. Today we were only expecting the Minister of Finance to present a paper, which is the first quarter budget. He wasn't expected to move a motion.
Okay.
But that has not even happened. So the Minister would only have to go and consult further the Finance Committee, and they would find the appropriate date. He would have to come to Parliament to present to Ghanaians also, and also to the House, the first quarter budget.
All right. So all we know is that it will be in the month of November, but we can't tell which date in November. Rabiu, we're grateful once again for your time this morning. Rabiu is with our team in Parliament, and well, it didn't come off.
So we can all go home now. But I mean, obviously, a number of people are surprised at the decision,
right?
And we were all, highly anticipating highly anticipating what the outlook would be like and what government's projection is. I'm sure meanings from various quarters can be read into this, but then we'll leave that to Parliament. Clearly, they are going on with the other businesses for the day. But like you mentioned, we were here with our ears and eyes, keenly awaiting the delivery of the 2017 first quarter budget, and we would have to postpone that and probably come back in November.
Right.
But as of the day in November, that has also not been given.
Right. Okay, we're grateful. That's how we're wrapping up our live coverage this morning. If you were expecting so much, you just have to keep your fingers crossed and wait till November when a date is fixed for that. At midday, Wendy Lai and the team will be here with Midday Live. They'll tell us more from the team in Parliament exactly what went there. We're grateful you stay there for us. This has been a special coverage of the first quarter 2017 presentation of government's fiscal policy from us here at TV3. Stay with us. Midday Live comes up next.